Assessment is an essential part of the rehabilitation process. It provides the patient and the clinical team with the information about the disability and, more specifically, the impact that the impairments have had on a person's day-to-day life. Assessments also provide information about future intervention and treatments that will help a person to overcome or compensate for their difficulties. It can highlight potential risks that could cause a person or others harm. Assessment also provides us with a benchmark for which to work from and to measure recovery against. Rehabilitation has three purposes: 1, to reduce the impairment of disability, 2, to compensate for the disability, and 3, to help the person to adapt and adjust to the disability. When a person is first admitted to one of our units, they will often undergo a designated period of assessment in order to identify the difficulties they have and to inform us of appropriate treatment. During the rehabilitation process, we will often use various practical and observational methods. For example, if we are assessing impairments such as those seen after brain injury, we would be looking for cognitive-related difficulties such as changes in memory, attention, comprehension, communication or thinking skills, motor difficulties such as reduced movements of limbs, altered muscle tone, tremor, poor coordination, strength, balance or swallow. We might also look at sensory difficulties, which include smell and taste, or changes in sensations such as loss or increase of pain, temperature or touch. It would also be within the remit of the clinical team to assess vision and hearing. Disability can have a devastating effect on a person's life and their ability to engage in independent living skills. So, assessment might include daily life skills such as personal hygiene, dressing, eating, grooming and toileting, as well as other aspects of a person's life such as work and leisure, social interactions and social engagement. Assessments should always be valid and suitable to the person's disability. For example, you would not assess a person's walking if there was no evident difficulties. Assessment should always be objective and fair, and the patient should always be able to stop at any time during the process. Before it's carried out, the purpose of the assessment should always be discussed with the patient and family. Also, assessments should always be carried out by a qualified assessor or professional. It is also really important to obtain consent from the patient before an assessment starts. These assessments will be carried out by a variety of skilled professionals, including nurses, doctors, consultants, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, speech and language therapists and psychologists. These professionals can also be known as the multidisciplinary team. Psychologists are responsible for assessing cognitive, emotional and psychological functions of the brain. They carry out standardised tests designed to look at specific areas of brain function. Tests are timed and require the individual to sit in a quiet room with a psychologist and answering a number of written and verbal questions or doing a number of practical tasks. Speech and language therapists look at communication and swallowing. For example, if a person cannot comprehend language, then communication with others will be affected. Physiotherapists are responsible for assessing damage or injury to physiological and anatomical structures, specifically movement, balance and strength. For example, physiotherapists might carry out assessments in their gym, in the patient's room or in the community. Occupational therapists assess the impact of impairment on activities of daily living and how a person carries out a task. For example, the assessment might take place in the kitchen, looking at a person's ability to plan and organise and prepare a meal. Assessments might be in a local shop to look at a person's road safety, money management or social skills. The team works closely together to ensure that all aspects of the disability have been assessed. Assessments start from the time that a patient is admitted to our unit. The team will introduce themselves to the family and patient within 1 or 2 days of arrival. This will cover various aspects of the person's clinical history, their social history, home, education and work, and what they did prior to their injury. They will take a full medical history, including an understanding of any previous conditions that might impact on their recovery or be the cause of existing disabilities. The interview will provide clinicians with information about who the person is, how they functioned before their injury, the support networks that they have, and their expectations relating to their recovery and discharge. Once the assessment is completed, the information forms the basis for treatment. The data will be analysed and discussed both as a team and with the individual and family. Treatment goals are then identified and treatment will commence. Treatment is then reviewed over the weeks and the outcomes are measured against the findings of the assessment. Assessment is ongoing throughout the rehabilitation process, constantly informing clinicians of changes in a person's performance, which is then used to update the treatment plans and interventions. When a person is first admitted to one of our units, they will undergo a designated period of assessment to identify difficulties and inform appropriate treatment. During the rehabilitation process, we will use various practical and observational methods. For example, if we are assessing impairments, such as those seen after brain injury, then we would be looking for cognitive-related difficulties, such as changes in memory, attention, comprehension, communication or thinking. Motor deficits, such as reduced movement of limbs, altered muscle tone, tremor, poor coordination, balance or swallow problems. Sensory functions might include changes to smell and taste, or loss of pain, temperature or touch. We would also look at basic aspects of assessing vision and hearing. Disability can have a devastating effect on a person's life and their ability to engage in independent living skills. So, assessment will include daily life skills such as personal hygiene, dressing, eating, grooming and going to the toilet, as well as other aspects of life such as work and leisure, social interactions and social engagement.